So, over the last couple of weeks, I've been going on a journey of sorts, rewatching some of the old debates for the 2024 election, mostly just between 2023 and 2024. And I started noticing a trend throughout some of the debates that just kept popping up over and over again. And it was basically that a lot of Republicans didn't expect Trump to follow through with any of his plans, or at least any of the bad ones. Um, and there was one debate in particular that really stuck out to me that I wanted to talk about. And that was the debate between Destiny and Ben Shapiro on Lex Friedman's channel. Basically, I believe Destiny was talking about the tariffs or something like that related to Trump's plan for 2025. And Ben Shapiro said something about politicians always struggle to follow through with what they're going to say they're going to do. Like, that's just completely expected that presidents will not be able to do everything that they say they're going to do.
So if somebody was running and they blatantly said, like, I don't want to use the fascist word, but if they said, like, I want to be an authoritarian, I'm going to abolish all elections, you would say, sure, he's saying that, but, like, I don't think he can actually do it. So it's okay if he runs for president. You don't care at all as long as you feel like the guardrails.
I mean, I might prefer other candidates, but I think that also one of the things that you do is that politicians, again, this would be an exceptional circumstance, but politicians constantly make promises about the things that they are going to do and then don't fulfill. And we tend to take those out in the wash, meaning that, if I promise that day one, as Donald Trump has pledged to do, that he's going to deport literally every illegal immigrant to the country, do I think he's actually going to do that? I mean, I really highly doubt it. He didn't do it last time he was in office. That's just, there are many examples of this.
And it really got me thinking, where basically, for a Democrat, like Biden or Harris or whatever, that would be a bad thing. Like, we don't want them to not follow through with what we're talking about. If they say they're going to lower the cost of education, lower the cost of drug prices, and they don't do it, that's a bad thing. But for some reason, with Trump in particular, whenever he doesn't follow through with what he says he's going to do, for instance, the tariffs or invading Greenland with the most recent stuff, they consider that a good thing. Or getting rid of the Department of Education. That was something that was mentioned before, and a lot of people said he wasn't going to do that. But now he's still talking about it. He still wants to do it. And for Ben Shapiro, his reasoning was that as a conservative, a good presidency is a presidency where the president doesn't really do much, where the government doesn't really do anything, because he's for small government.
This goes back to the first question. The task that Republicans think government is there to do is different than the task that Democrats think that government is there to do. So the way that the very metric of success for a Democratic president versus a Republican president, namely, for example, pieces of legislation passed, as a Republican, one of my goals is to pass nearly no legislation because I don't actually want the government involved in more areas of our life.
Obviously, I disagree with that, and I don't think Ben Shapiro actually agrees with that. I think he likes it whenever his policies get put in place. It's more so a defense for Trump's actions because there are no defenses for it. When you can't defend something, you kind of just have to pretend that it's not going to happen. It helps them avoid having those awkward, hard conversations of confronting the reality of, if Trump is able to follow through with these policies that he says he wants to do, that would be terrible for him. It would be terrible for America. And rather than having to confront that, they can just say, oh, well, no president is able to do everything that they say they're going to do. Even though, like I said, we would consider that a bad presidency. We wouldn't consider it good to say that our president didn't do what they promised they were going to do. But for Trump, that's how we talk about him. Or at least that's how Republicans and Trump supporters will talk about him. That whenever you bring up a bad thing that Trump wants to do, they say he's not going to do it, or he's not going to be able to do that with that. That the guardrails are going to protect us from that.
So if you're asking me, do I think that Trump has bad intent or could have bad intent with that sort of stuff? Sure. Do I believe that the guardrails held and will continue to hold? Also, sure.
And it's just, It's a terrible way of viewing the presidency, for starters. But more than anything else, I think it's malicious, is more than anything else. I think it's something that we need to confront, and I hear a lot of people talking about how, oh, Trump is stupid, he doesn't know what he's doing, Trump supporters are dumb, they're not aware of like the nuances of politics. And I think we need to stop talking about that. We need to stop saying that they don't know what they're talking about, because God forbid if we talk about, oh my gosh, just recently with egg prices under Biden, we had the pandemic and people were blaming egg prices on egg prices and a lack of eggs under Biden. They were blaming Biden for it. And even if you could explain to them 100 million ways about how the pandemic and bird flu and all these other issues, supply chain issues, were causing an increase in egg prices, as well as a demand issue. Excuse me. And they wouldn't get it. They would just say, no, Biden is doing a terrible job because he's not lowering the egg prices. But now that Trump is president, suddenly they can understand all those nuances because it's intentional. They're not saying that they don't understand. They're pretending that they don't understand. Or they're saying that they don't understand because they're just pretending. They do understand. Because whenever it's on their side, they're completely able to defend their position from a very intellectual standpoint. Granted, most of it is just parroted from someone else who made those arguments for them, but they are fully capable of knowing what the issue is. It's just a matter of refusing not to know. And that kind of goes back with Project 2025, which is a big thing that Trump does himself, where he didn't want to hear it. He said that he didn't read Project 2025. He didn't want to know what Project 2025 is. And now that his presidency is around, I believe it's like 2/3 of what's in Project 2025 is actively being implemented by Donald Trump. So I still think that he can say, and he would probably be telling the truth, that he still hasn't read Project 2025, because it gives him that ability to have a kernel of truth whenever he feigns ignorance. And that's what these people are doing as well whenever they say they don't understand these nuances about egg prices and stuff. They don't want to know. They either are intentionally lying about knowing, and that they are fully capable, which is very malicious, or they maliciously choosing not to know because it's much easier to lie about the reason why, because they don't want to admit that there's a reason, a valid reason for a president not to be able to lower the price of gas or eggs or something like that. Instead, they want to blame people for it. And then when it's on their side, it benefits them, so they do learn the nuances. They do understand these structures that are in place that cause barriers for a president to be able to do something or not be able to do something. But anyway, that's pretty much all I wanted to talk about, was these issues I see keep popping up. And I'm just basically tired. And I'm basically just tired of hearing us talk about Republicans as if they're children, which unfortunately they act like it a lot, but they're not stupid. Even a child knows how to do weaponized incompetence. Even a child like myself was able to know, if I learn how to wash dishes or if I learn how to sweep and mop the floor, I'm going to be asked to do it. So I'm going to pretend like I don't know. And I'm going to pretend like I don't know how to even learn how to do it. That I don't know how to do the bare minimum of being able to understand how dishes are being washed or something like that, because then I would be responsible for it. And that's why they actively avoid learning about these subjects, because if they do, then they're going to be held responsible, or they'll just have to lie, like a lot of them do, unfortunately. But yeah, that's pretty much all I wanted to talk about. It was something interesting that I noticed, and I thought it was something worth sharing, just because I hear the opposite perspective a lot, where, oh, Republicans are so stupid, they don't know how to do X, Y, Z, or they don't know anything about economics. And it's like, no, it's intentional. Let's call it what it is, especially right now, where we're not fighting debates. Like, it's not funny anymore. Like, it's not, oh, haha, Trump is going to be incompetent. Like when it's weaponized incompetence, and Trump has the power that he has now, which is a lot greater than it was in his last presidency, both because of the installation of loyalists within his community, or within his presidency, as the people put around him, or the Supreme Court. But just overall, it's just not a good situation. So I think we need to be taking this very seriously and stop just making jokes. I mean, as much as I love the jokes, it's hilarious talking to people and seeing them say ignorant things. We also need to understand that it's not funny that people are intentionally lying about being incompetent. It is something that in a relationship, if we were talking about two people married or dating, it would be abusive. And because we're basically in a two-party system, we're in an abusive relationship with the other side because of their weaponized incompetence. And that's not something we should joke about. It's something that we need to do something about and be very aware of and counteract those issues. Where even if we walk them through step by step, if that's what we have to do, it doesn't help all the time. Sometimes it does. Sometimes you can walk your partner through step by step and work through their weaponized incompetence, but they're just going to do it again in another area. So we need to counteract it effectively. And I can think of a couple ways just right off the top of my head, but I'm going to go ahead and save that for either a later video where I'm going to go more in depth on the other weaponized incompetence that I see, or that I have been seeing in this journey that I talked about, watching, recapping on where we are now compared to where we were just a year ago, talking about a Trump presidency, what that would look like, and kind of what we lost, unfortunately, by losing out on a Biden or Harris presidency. But I'm going to go over all that. I just kind of wanted to make that known. Thanks.